reflected on Mr. Craythorne's entire affidavit. I don't think that it's necessary to take longer than 2 hours to complete his evidence. He has confirmed the contents of the affidavit as correct. What remains is that you must just focus on important issues, cover important issues in his oral evidence. And I don't think that we need more than 2 hours for that, so that thereafter I can deal with the question of what's going to happen with today's other witness. Okay, so go for the important issues so that he can cover the important issues in his oral evidence. Otherwise, everything that he has said in his affidavit is before the commission. He has confirmed it to be correct. It's there to be read.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. That is duly noted. Mr. Craythorne, you heard that?
I did.
Okay, thank you very much. On Friday when we left off, you were dealing with the complaints that you had leveled against the mining contractors. And on page 23 of bundle number 4, that's where we stopped. We were on page 23 of bundle number 4. You indicated in paragraph 86, you say that it's only after Moodley was implicated in state capture that your contract was reinstated.
That's correct.
Do you link the two?
I do link the two because it became apparent at that point that the complaints that I had made in regard to Mr. Moodley's involvement in Scarlet Sky seemed to have reason to be concerned over.
Okay. And you end off that section by indicating that the South African taxpayers and the Richtersveld community also deserve protection from what you would describe as the wholesale theft of the marine diamonds of Alexkor. You say this has been achieved by manipulation of the provisions of the agreements between the PSJV and the SSI and the persistent undervaluation of the diamonds produced by the contractors.
Correct.
Now, I'll take you back on your affidavit to a section we didn't deal with, which is to be found. My apologies, in the previous page, on page 18.
Page 18?
Yes. In that page, you talk about how the board of the Richtersveld Mining Company was unlawfully constituted.
That's correct.
Now, the relevance of this unlawful constitution of the mining company is what transpired at the time that it wasn't properly constituted. Is that correct?
It was during the lead up to the awarding of the tender and the launching of the tender process that it became clear to the board of Alexkor as well as the joint board of the PSJV that the directors of Richtersveld Mining Company were not duly appointed. There had been a court case brought by Mr. Craig Matthews against the removal of him as the sole director of Richtersveld Mining Company, and in his place the appointment of 3 other directors who were then the directors that formed the representation on the PSJV for Richtersveld Mining Company. And I know that from a letter written by Mr. Craig Matthews to Alexkor as well as Minister Lynn Brown, which flowed out of his successful court action, and that was confirmed by the Samela judgment.
Yes.
Confirmed, there was a judgment confirming that he was at that particular time, that critical time, he was in fact the only lawful in onboarding Scarlet Sky were not unlawfully, because they should not have been in those positions. And Mr. Craig Matthews made it very clear to both the boards of Alexkor and the board of the PSJV.
Do we have a copy of that judgment?
Yes, yes, Chair.
In this bundle?
Yes, Chair. In fact, it is on page 469 of this same bundle that we are busy with. If we can turn there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Now, on this page, are you there yet, Mr. Craythorne?
Almost there. I am now.
Okay. Now, in this case, we can see that this is a case that the judgment was delivered on the 4th of September 2014 by Samela J, correct? On page 469. Can you see where it says the judgment was delivered on the 4th September 2014?
Correct.
Okay. Now, if we can turn to page 483.
I have it.
The order is the third respondent was unlawfully removed as a director of the RMC on 22 November 2013.
Correct.
On page 469, where we last were, it's clear that the third respondent is Craig Llewellyn Matthews, correct?
Correct.
Now, the court order continues to say the third respondent, whom we now know is Mr. Matthews, is the sole director of the RMC.
Correct.
Yes. And on the very next page, on page 484, we can see that this order is being sent via email by Mr. Matthews, the third respondent, who is the sole director, to a number of people. Who are those people that he sent this court order and judgment to?
That's Serena Kellerman, Zuki, which is Zukiswa Ntlangula.
What are their roles? Sorry, when you mention a name, can you tell us who that is?
Okay, Zarina Kellerman was the Chief Legal Officer at Alexkor Corporate.
Yes.
Zukiswa Ntlangula was a board member of the Alexkor SAC board.
Yes.
Reagan Phillips was the company secretary of the PSJV.
Yes.
Dr. Roger Paul was a board member.
Of the JV or of Alexkor?
Of Alexkor. And he was also a board member of the joint board. Mm-hmm. Percy K, that would be Percy Koza, who was the CEO of Alexkor at the time.
Yes.
Dr. Nona Mahutsa Matabani, I'm not sure what her position in the company would have been. And then lastly, Mr. Mervyn Carstens, who was the Chief Executive Officer of the PSJV.
Yes. And if I may refer you also to page 400 and My apologies, I've lost my page, Chair. If the Chair will just bear with me. It's actually the very next page, 485.
I haven't.
Okay. And on this, in this document, this is a letter addressed from the Richtersveld Mining Company to the directors of Alexkor and the CEO of the PSJV and the board secretary of the PSJV, dated the 4th of September, correct?
Correct.
And we can see that in this letter, Mr. Matthew is communicating the content of the judgment.
That's correct.
And what does he say on paragraph 7, which is on the page 486?
Paragraph 7 reads as follows. The further implications are very serious in that any decisions that were taken by the PSJV board since November 2013 are on the face of it invalid for the mere fact that the Richtersveld Mining Company representatives were not appointed by the RMC and had no authority to take decisions on behalf of the company and the PSJV board. You were advised in previous communications that subsequent to the finalization of the aforementioned court matter that the RMC may review all decisions taken by the PSJV board since November 2013.
Yes. And if I move you on to page 490, 490,
Yes?
what document is that?
This is an email or a letter transmitted by email from Mr. Craig Matthews. Oh, no, sorry, it's addressed, sorry, I beg your pardon. It's a letter sent to Mr. Craig Matthews from Alexkor.
Yes, and what's the subject line?
Western Cape High Court matter.
Now, this seems to be a response to the letter that had been sent by Mr. Matthews, correct?
That's correct.
And in paragraph 2, together with 2.1, what does it say there in that letter?
It starts with, as far as we do, however, note the following. Neither the company nor the PSJV were parties to the court action referred to in your aforementioned letter. And as a result, the attachment of the court's ruling as well as an expose of the court action is of no consequence to us.
Now, what do you make of that response from Alexkor?
I think it's a reckless disregard for good governance and for the High Court.
And in fact, I can take you further to page 495 of the same document.
You mean of the same
Of
bundle?
the same bundle. My apologies, Chair.
I have it in front of me.
Now, we can see that this is a letter on the letterhead of Adams and Adams.
That's correct.
And it's dated the 5th of November 2014.
That's correct.
It's addressed to Mr. Bachas, but with a wrong spelling.
Correct.
Okay. Now, if I can just refer you to, well, they confirm firstly that they act for the Richtersveld Mining Company, and they are writing the letter at the direction of the sole director, Mr. Craig Matthews.
Correct.
And then in paragraph 4, they also confirm that on considering your correspondence regarding the judgment, it's apparent to us that you are under the mistaken belief that due to not being a party to the proceedings, the judgment is of no consequence to you, despite the central issue in the judgment being the directorship of our client. And
Correct.
then they go on to address this, what Adams and Adams refer to as the mistaken belief. Do you see that in paragraph 5?
I do.
Yes. And they say in paragraph 5.2, the fact that Alexkor was not a party to the said proceedings is irrelevant. The decision-making process of the PSJV presupposes that the directors of our client were validly appointed and/or validly removed. And it sets out what the judgment says.
Correct.
Yes. So, if we turn further to page 497,
I have it in front of me.
yes, in paragraph 5.4, do you confirm that it says, although our client accepts that you and the Community Property Association are co-signatories to the settlement agreement, your primary contractual obligation in terms of the settlement agreement and the unanimous resolution are to our client and his correctly appointed board of directors?
Correct.
Yes. And in paragraph 5.5, what is the last thing that they mention?
Our client is particularly concerned by your failure to appreciate the potential for all the decisions taken by the PSJV from 22 November 2013 by an improperly constituted board to be rendered null and void. This is illustrated by your persistence in engaging the purported directors. Despite the court order, and accordingly, there is a very real danger that the PSJV may be exposed to damages claims in respect of contractual arrangements concluded with third parties after 22 November 2013.
Yes. And we already know from your evidence that what had transpired in this particular period was that there had been a decision that was taken to appoint, to go out on tender for the appointment of a service provider for the sale of diamonds.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, we note that we don't have a response after that letter. Immediately after that letter. Oh, please correct me because I am wrong. On page 499 is a response. Mr. Craythorne, if I'm wanting you to confirm something that's incorrect, just bring me to order.
I'll do so.
Yes.
Thank you.
And on page 499 is a response dated the 7th November 2014 from?
It's from Alexkor, and it's addressed to Adams and Adams. Attention, Mr. A. Mulver.
Yes. And who is the author of the letter on page 500?
Ms. Zarina Kellerman.
Yes. And in this letter, does Alexkor accept the position as set out in the letter of Adams and Adams? Do they even deal with the merits of what was in the letter from Adams and Adams? I'll take you through to paragraph 4.
Yes, ma'am.
They say that we place on record that Alexkor has never pronounced or actively supported any factions in the Richtersveld community. It has, through its obligations, supported the legitimately elected structures created in terms of the deed of settlement concluded between the government of South Africa and the people of Richtersveld for the full and proper implementation of the deed of settlement. And in paragraph 5, they say, Alexkor has no authority over the affairs of the Richtersveld Communal Property Association or its subsidiaries. We refer you to, and they refer to a judgment that deals with that. And
Correct.
then they carry on in paragraph 6, and they say, we are advised that your client was removed through proper resolutions by the majority shareholder of Richtersveld Mining Company. Now, is this correct, given what the judgment says?
Well, that shows utter contempt for Judge Samela, in my view.
Because isn't what the judge in fact said, isn't what the judge in fact say the exact opposite of this assertion?
That is correct. They're contradicting Judge Samela.
Now, that is the last of that at that stage, and that's in November. That's on the 7th of November, 2014.
That's correct.
Now, you've already given evidence that on the 6th of November, what had been done by SSI and other companies?
They had begun competing to win the right to market and sell Alexkor's diamonds by way of the request for proposal 03/14, I believe it is.
Yes, and SSI had in fact on the 6th submitted their show of interest or expression of interest.
That's correct.
So as at the date when this letter is being written by Alexkor, the process is ongoing.
That is correct.
Yes. And a few weeks thereafter, you've already testified, as has Mr. Torres, that the proposals were in fact received by the PSJV. And the PSJV continued to evaluate and take the necessary steps without the involvement of Mr. Matthews, who was the sole director at that time of the RMC.
That is correct. So the whole tender process continued regardless of the implications that Mr. Matthews had raised.
And what did this indicate to you?
This indicated to me a total lack of accountability or sense of probity in relation to corporate governance.
And in fact, we know that, or we can see, let me take you to page 501 of the same bundle.
I have it before me.
Yes, and what is that document in front of you? It's a letter?
It's a letter addressed to Minister Brown on the 25th of February 2015. And it is authored by Mr. Craig Matthews.
Yes, and what does he say is the purpose of the letter in paragraph 2?
He states the following: the purpose of my letter is to bring to your attention the recent developments within the RMC and to raise my concerns regarding Alexkor's attitude to these developments.
And in paragraph...
Mr. Bear, will you make sure that page 502 is replaced with a page that is along the same lines as page 501. On my bundle, 501 is fine, but 502 is the opposite of 501 in terms of how it is placed here.
I understand.
It's I don't know What happened to the person who was putting them in? So if you could have that corrected.
Thank you, Chair. We'll attend to it. Now, on page 501, in paragraph 5, Mr. Matthews indicates that as regards Alexkor's response to my attorney's letter, you will note, yes.
You see, paragraph 5 on mine is at page 502, not 501. Is yours on 501?
Yes, Chair, then we definitely need to correct that.
So we should all have exactly the same
Yes.
thing. When you say paragraph 5 at page so and so, I should find paragraph 5 on the same page.
Yes,
So,
Chair.
my paragraph 5 starts with in view of the aforesaid. Is that your paragraph 5 as well?
Sorry, Chair?
Does your paragraph 5 start with in view of the aforesaid?
No, Chair. I think we might even be reading two different documents as things stand.
Yeah, yes, and that makes it even worse then.
Yes.
The letter that you referred the witness to, you said appears at page 501, is that correct?
Yes, Chair.
And when you say 501, okay, maybe we are, or maybe I am the cause for the mistake here. You are using black numbers.
Yes, Chair.
Oh, okay, no, that's fine. I think where we have a bundle that has got both red and black numbers, we must always at the start of the process just confirm that it's the black numbers we are using. Okay, so you are at black 501.
Yes, Chair.
And your paragraph 5 starts with you, as you will no doubt agree. Is that right?
Correct.
Then I'm reading the wrong paragraph.
That's a wrong paragraph.
Because I meant to read paragraph 6. But I agree with
Is
what
it a
the
letter
Chair.
addressed to the Minister of Public Enterprises,
It's the same document, Chair.
dated 25 February 2015?
Yes, Chair.
But you say your paragraph 5 doesn't start with as you will no doubt agree.
No, Chair. I'm confirming that that's how paragraph 5 starts.
Yeah, okay, no,
Yes.
that's all right.
But
Then the comments I made about 501 and
Yes.
502 earlier on the 2 pages, they relate to red 501 and red 502, but 502 still requires to be replaced with a page that is in line with page 501.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, all right.
Unfortunately, we'll have the same problem on another page in the future, but I've noted that page as well.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
all right.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, what I was in fact saying was that I've referred the witness to the wrong paragraph number. Yes, because I
Okay.
want him to read paragraph 6.
Paragraph 6.
Yes, on
Okay,
page
all right.
501.
Okay, paragraph 6 at black 501.
Yes.
Okay.
As regards Alexkor's response to my attorney's letter, you will note that despite our concerns that the PSJV would be concluding transactions which may potentially be invalidated, Alexkor sought to disregard this issue as merely an internal issue within the entities controlled by the Communal Property Association.
And the next page, next paragraph.
Going on to paragraph 7, the obvious difficulty with Alexkor's attitude is that it has left the PSJV exposed to potential damages claims as the contract entered into may potentially be invalidated due to the PSJV board having regard to and acting on the instructions of persons not authorized to bind the RMC.
And from what you know, did anything happen? Was there a response to this letter? It's not addressed to you or by you, but I'm asking from the investigations you made, was there a response to this letter?
As far as I'm aware, there was no response from the Minister to this particular letter.
Yes. Now, on page 30, sorry, 503, GC 30. Black 503.
Okay, so it's black page 530.
No, I can see you're on the wrong page.
Sorry, I beg your pardon.
503.
503. Dyslexic, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm at 503 now.
Yes, this is another letter from Adams and Adams addressed to Mr. Bachas, correct?
That is correct.
And it's dated the 27th February 2015.
Correct.
And among the requests that are made in that letter is a request on paragraph 5.5, which appears on the next page, which is 504, which is the page that we will correct.
Okay. So that's 504 on the black numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
And one of the requests that are made by Adams and Adams is in 5.5, and what does it say?
It reads as follows: hold over all further decisions of the PSJV until a properly constituted board of the PSJV, that includes our client, has had an opportunity to reconsider these decisions.
And if I may refer you to page 259 of this same bundle.
On what page?
259, Chair.
Okay.
This is the middle of a document that starts on page 253. Can you go to page 253 so that we identify what the document is?
I'm at page 253.
Yes. What is this document?
This is a covering letter addressed to Honourable Minister Ms. Lynn Brown, reporting back on the investigation carried out by the Alexkor Audit and Risk Committee in relation to the appointment of Scarlet Sky.
Yes. And the date of the document?
29 February 2016.
Now, if we go to page 259,
259.
yes. Towards, on the left-hand side of the table that appears there, you will see at the top it says left, in the left column it says date, and in the middle column it says description, and in the second to last column it says annexure, and in the last column it says reference to collaborative evidence, correct?
That is correct.
So this is a report to the Minister, Ms. Lynn Brown.
Correct.
Now, at the bottom of that page, the very last entry, what is the date on that entry?
That is the 1st of March 2015.
Yes. And in the description, what does it say happened on the 1st of March 2015?
SSI was informed that they were the successful bidder and that the tender was awarded to them, and all other companies were informed that their proposals were unsuccessful.
So this is 2 days after the letter from Adams and Adams saying, please hold over all further decisions.
Correct.
So they completely disregarded that warning,
That is correct.
in addition to disregarding the judgment itself.
Correct.
What did this communicate to you, these actions, in spite of the judgment and in spite of the warnings?
Well, I again repeat, it indicated to me that there was an absolutely total disregard for due process, for honesty, for good governance, and that this was typical of what I understood to be state capture at play.
Now, if we can go back on your affidavit to page 44.
Just before that,
Yes, Chair.
Mr. Craythorne, the members of the Alexkor Audit and Risk Committee who produced this report, to your knowledge, how many of them could be described as Gupta associates?
At least one,
Yes. Who was that?
and that was Mr. Trevor Harsbrook.
Yes. Okay.
Thank
Yes.
you, Chair.
Continue.
Thank you. If we can go to page 44 of the same bundle. Your affidavit.
I'm at page 44.
Now I'm taking you to the heading that you have titled State Capture.
I have it in front of me.
Okay. Now in this section, you tell us the background to the report that we've just had a look at. And you indicate that there had been a complaint to the public protector and that this report was as a result of a reaction to the complaint to the public protector.
Correct.
What was the complaint to the public protector and who had made it?
It was a complaint authored by Attorney Duncan Karabi on behalf of the Richtersveld community, objecting to the absence of a due diligence prior to giving the contract to Scarlet Sky, and then also in relation to the lack of transparency and the lack of performance on the part of Scarlet Sky.
Yes. And if I can take you to bundle 4B.
Ms. Beer, just before you do that, do you recall whether in the report of the Audit and Risk Committee, to which you referred a few minutes ago,
Yes, Chair.
whether in their report that committee said there had been a due diligence that was conducted?
They say that, Chair.
They
We're
said
still
that.
going to go there, but yes, they say
Okay,
that, Chair.
okay, all right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, in bundle 4B, if we can open page 815, 815.
I have it in front of me.
Yes.
What's the page number again?
815.
Okay.
Is this the complaint you were referring to, Mr. Craythorne?
That is correct.
So it's the complaint to the public protector for the attention of Miss Winnie M at pprotect.org.
Correct.
And what does it say the complaint is in the heading?
Complaint, irregular awarding of contract to Scarlet Sky Investments 60 Pty Limited and Flawless Diamonds.
Yes. And if you turn a few pages to page 818,
I have it in front of me.
you can see who's the author of the complaint.
Duncan Karabi.
Yes, and he calls himself an independent director, correct?
Correct.
Of the Richtersveld Mining Company.
Correct.
Okay. Now, if we turn the page to page 819, and we look in the middle of the page where it says begin forwarded message. Can you see that? In the middle of the page.
It's 819. Okay, I have it. Yeah,
You see it.
I do.
And there is where we can see that this document was sent via email, because this is where it says from, and it has the email address of Duncan Karabi, and to Winnie, and has that email address, and it tells us the date and time. What is the date and time of this complaint?
It's 11 September 2015 at 13:35.
Yes. And if you look at the top of the page, you can see that this message is forwarded to other people. Can you
Correct.
see that?
Correct.
It's sent from Duncan Karabi at 1:44 p.m. on the same date, correct?
That is correct.
And who is it now sent to?
It's sent to Percy Causa, Percy
Yes.
K at alexkor.co.za.
And you've said this was the CEO at the time.
That's correct.
And who else was copied?
It was copied to Katatso Tlakudi at dpe.gov, Mervyn Carstens, Mervyn C at alexkor.co.za,
You don't have to read the email addresses, just the names of the people.
Zarina Kellerman, Dr. Roger Paul, the Richtersveld Communal Property Association, Mr. Willem Vries, Mr. Dennis Farmer, Mr. Pieter de Wet, Mr. Joshua de Wet, and Ms. Catherine Slander.
So many people were given this email. And what does it say to Mr. Koza?
Dear Mr. Causa, please find attached the RMC complaint to the Public Protector related to the appointment of Scarlet Sky Investments 60 Pty Limited. I apologize for not forwarding the document to you yesterday, but I only returned from a business trip yesterday evening and could only attend to finalizing the complaint today. It is unfortunate that we have to refer the matter to the Public Protector, but we do not have the cooperation of the Executive Committee on this matter, and we are strained in our access to the information. We trust the above is in order.
And if you look at the next page, page 820, you can see there's another email dated 2018 July. Can you see that?
Yes?
Who is it from?
It's from Duncan E. Karabi.
Yes, and who is it addressed to? Which entity is it addressed to?
To Charmaine Issel at DPE.
Yes. And what does he say was the outcome of the complaint?
Dear Charmaine, please find attached the original referral of the complaint. There was some additional information sent. Let me know if you want that. The complaint was registered with the Public Protector under reference, our reference ref :7/2 1-011-497/15, Mr. D. Korabi. In November 2015, we agreed, following a meeting between the CPA and the Minister of Public Enterprises, not to proceed with complaint to allow her to investigate the matter internally. We agreed that the ARC committee of the PSJV would investigate the matter. Later, I discovered that Zarina Kellerman tried to investigate the matter herself. To the best of my knowledge, the matter was never investigated. There was a separate complaint against Kellerman. Let me know if you would like that as well. Regards, Duncan Korabi.
Yes. Thank you. You can put that bundle aside for now as we go back to bundle 4A. If I can refer you in bundle 4A to page 260.
I have it in front of me.
Yes. You confirm that this is still the report made by Alexkor to Minister Lynn Brown?
I confirm, sir. Yeah.
Yes. Now on page 260, we can see a heading marked 4.2.2, the response to the complaints by the committee.
Correct.
Now they start responding to the issues raised.
I'm sorry, I thought you said page 206. That's not right, eh?
No, it's 260.
250.
260. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, continue.
Thank you. So the gist of the complaint starts in what they say, para 2. Do you see that reference in the box that's in the table that's below the heading response to the complaints?
Correct.
Yes. And it says, on the 17th of December, the previous chairperson contacted Korabi and required him to approve the conditional appointment. Certain queries were raised surrounding the appointment, and he persisted that a conditional appointment be done. A inter alia condition of the appointment of SSI was that the CEO should conduct a due diligence on SSI and report back to the committee on such due diligence.
Correct.
Can you see that?
I do.
So that is the complaint.
Correct.
Yes. The response by the committee is that Mr. Korabi, who we know is the author of the complaint, right?
Just to make sure that we've captured this in the transcript, you are now dealing with the Audit and Risk Committee report that starts at page 253, is that right?
Yes, yes, Chair.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Thank
So
you.
the response is, to the complaints is a response by that committee, is that right?
Yes, Chair.
Okay,
So it's in a way their findings,
yeah,
having investigated the issue raised
yes,
by, to the public protector.
okay,
Yes. So in terms of their investigation, Mr. Korabi did not raise any concerns regarding SSI. The only committee member who had further comments in his email was Dr. Paul. Can you see that?
I do.
Yes. And it says it was confirmed by the chairperson that the reason the approval was conditional was to ensure that all concerns of the committee were addressed, even though SSI had attained the highest scoring.
Correct.
Yes. And then in paragraph 3, or where they say para 3,
Yes.
they record the complaint as, it would appear that there could not have been much due diligence. SSI was previously owned by Legal Frontiers Corporate Services, which is a company that trades in shelf companies. It would appear, now on page 261, it would appear that from 2009 to 2014, SSI was a shelf company owned by LF. LF sold SSI and its new directors were registered on 20 November 2014. We do not know who the shareholders are.
Correct.
What is the response by the committee?
It reads as follows: the CEO of the PSJB did a proper due diligence on all the technical aspects and submitted the report to members of the tender committee in an email dated 29 January 2015.
Yes. Does this tell us the nature of the due diligence that was conducted?
It claims to be a purely technical due diligence.
Now, based on the evidence you've already given, could a due diligence on the technical aspects resulted in the continued appointment of SSI?
No, it could not have.
Why do you say that?
Well, because the absence of a license on its own was enough to trigger the expulsion from SSI from the process.
And we've already dealt with, in your evidence on Friday, with the question in relation to the experience.
And numerous other specifications which were minimum requirements in the tender specification, which SSI failed to meet.
So we don't know why they would say, why the committee would give this response.
No.
But is your evidence that there was no due diligence that was done?
I have not seen any evidence whatsoever of any due diligence report.
Yes. And the committee itself did not attach such due diligence report to its report, did it?
No, the only thing that I think is being preferred as a due diligence report was a mere email from...
Obviously, that can't be what one is talking about when one talks about a due diligence that must be conducted before you make this kind of appointment.
And even the email offers no assurance, which is what the purpose of a due diligence is.
Yeah, and I guess the first thing that would have been discovered would be that this company had no license.
Correct, Chairperson.
The question that arises is whether there is room for saying that the Audit and Risk Committee, in preparing this report, acted in good faith, or whether they included in the report false information, knowing it to be false. Are you able to say anything about that?
Chairperson, these are people with PhDs.
Yes.
And I fail to see how anybody with a PhD can mistakenly mistake what might possibly have been preferred as a due diligence. I can't see it.
Yes, yes. And their report does not say anything about SSI not having had a license, or does it?
I would have to refresh my memory, Chairperson, but there is no report There is merely an email from...
No, I mean the committee's own report to the minister. I'm saying, does their own report to the minister, the Audit and Risk Committee's report, say anything about SSI not having had a license?
No.
Yes.
Not to my recollection,
Yes.
Chairperson.
And it's just difficult how they could have investigated without establishing that simple, basic fact.
I agree.
They either must have turned a blind eye, or they were simply not prepared to include that in their report.
I agree, Chairperson.
And it's difficult to understand how they could do that in good faith. Maybe they will explain. Ms. Bia?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. If we continue on page 261, and I'm taking you to the bottom of the page, the last block, and on the left it says para 6.
I have it before me.
The complaint is, prior to the sitting of the tender committee, no documents were made available related to the candidates who would be considered to Korabi. Sorry, let me read that again so that it makes sense. Prior to the sitting of the tender committee, no documents were made available related to the candidates who will be considered, such report being made to Korabi. So Korabi did not get any documents. And it says, prior to the interview of the shortlisted candidates, the tender committee did no shortlisting, and the tender committee had no insight into the methodology and process used in the shortlisting process. In an email response, Reagan Phillips mentioned that the CEO will speak with Korabi prior to the meeting. No such discussion took place. Individuals in the PSJV did the shortlisting. Amongst other, we discovered the CEO and the secretary were part of that. The CEO also sat in the shortlisting interview process on the 11th of December 2014.
Correct.
The response by the committee says, Gamiro Advisory Services was appointed to conduct the exercise of shortlisting. The committee acknowledged that the presentation by Gamiro Advisory Services should have been accompanied by a report that informs the committee of the methodology followed and the process used to shortlist the company. This matter will be highlighted to the management of the PSJV to enhance controls around reports received from external parties.
Correct.
This response by the committee, does it tally with the evidence that we've heard already, or from what you have investigated, that Gamiro Advisory Services were appointed to shortlist and that there were shortcomings in the presentation made by Gamiro Advisory Services?
I agree with that.
Now, do you know whether the presentation by Gamiro Advisory Services identified any shortcomings?
It certainly did in relation to the license.
Yes. And also the scoring.
And well, the scoring on the license portion of the evaluation, where Gamiro scored 0, the bid evaluation committee themselves altered that from 0 to 5.
Sorry, which committee?
The tender committee, which finally ultimately awarded the tender to Scarlet Sky, altered the scoring which Gamera had placed on SSI in terms of the license from 0 to 5.
And interestingly enough, we've already heard evidence that SSI was scored 100%, but the person that scored them is the same person that made this report to the public protector.
That is correct. It's rather curious, but it is correct. And while the other scores given by Mr. Bachus and Dr. Paul were way lower than Mr. Karabi's scoring, they were in any event the highest score amongst the three. So all three of these gentlemen scored Scarlet Sky the highest. So it was a unanimous decision.
Do we have Mr. Korabi's affidavit explaining his conduct that seems inconsistent in this regard?
We don't, Chair.
Why not?
Chair, that is part of the process that the investigating team is still undertaking.
Oh, but that should have long been done.
I
He's
confirm that.
obviously such an important witness. I mean, he makes allegations about how he was conducted by the chairperson who told him or instructed him that they should approve or award the contract to SSI, and then he seems to lay a complaint with the public protector about exactly that. And as Mr. Craythorne says, he awarded SSI a lot of points. So that is somebody that should long have been interviewed and an affidavit obtained. Do you know how far we are from having his affidavit? I mean, how far we are in getting his affidavit?
Chair, the next steps are being planned as we speak, as we prepare the evidence, as we present the evidence. In securing his affidavit, because there were engagements with no response. So we are looking at the next steps, Chair.
I know that you only got involved in this work stream recently, but I have been told for a long time that everything was ready with regard to the leading of evidence of Alexkor. And I thought that all important affidavits were in, and Mr. Korabi's affidavit is quite important.
Chair,
Yeah, you can't say much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But it was identified since my involvement as one of those that need to be obtained.
Yes.
Chair.
And do you know what the position is with regard to Mr. Bacchus? Has he been interviewed? Is there an affidavit that has been obtained from him and Mr. Custons?
Sorry, Chair, I missed the first person.
Mr. Bacchus.
As things stand, Chair, there's interaction with the legal representatives, both of Mr. Custons and Mr. Bachas. There has been a lot of communication. There had initially been technical issues raised in relation to the admissibility of this evidence that was raised in relation to Mr. Bachas by his legal representation. So we are in engagements with them, but they have not submitted an affidavit.
But if he is not cooperating, he should just be served with a 10-6 directive requiring him to furnish an affidavit, and he would then be obliged to comply. We mustn't be wasting time. We don't have time.
Yes.
his lawyers may be taking whatever point, we'll see what points they take, but if we need information from him, we can't be engaged in an endless toing and froing process. If the legal team believes that he has information that is required by the Commission, he must be served with a 10-6 directive and you be given a deadline. We don't have time to waste.
Chair, I will make sure that that is attended to this week.
Yeah, and Mr.
Yes.
Carstens, has he been interviewed? Do we have an affidavit from him?
Mr. Carstens submitted an affidavit last week. It does not deal with the substance as such. It explains his delay in responding and other matters. He has not been well. He is in isolation as things stand. Ms. Phillips, Reagan Phillips, is presenting her response together with Mr. Carstens, and they are legally represented.
Yeah, what should have happened is that by the time we lead the evidence, all the important affidavits should have been obtained, including the affidavits of those people who may be seen as implicated persons. We should have their version, we should have their side of the story. That should have been done. And when I was told that the Alexkor evidence was ready, I thought that it would have included, that meant that the affidavits of all the important witnesses were in. Okay, let's continue. But before we do that, Mr. Craythorne, I want to take you back to page 260. That is still in the report of the Audit and Risk Committee.
I have it before me, Chairperson.
Yes, and I'm taking you to a portion that Ms. Bia did take you to, but I want to canvass a slightly different point. Can you see where it says paragraph 2?
Yes.
Yeah, then it says, and that's a recording of the allegation or complaint. On the 17th of December 2014, the previous chairperson contacted Korabi and required Korabi to approve the conditional appointment of Scarlet Sky Investments 60 Pty Limited. I raised certain queries with him surrounding the appointment, and he persisted that a conditional appointment be done. Inter alia condition of the appointment of SSI was that the CEO should conduct a due diligence on SSI and report back to the committee on such due diligence. You have read the response of the committee, which comes immediately after that, haven't you?
I've read the response.
Yes. Yeah. Does it deal with the factual allegation of that Mr. Korabi was contacted by the chairperson who required Korabi to approve the conditional appointment of Scarlet Sky Investment?
Well, what it appears to do is it appears to simply say that Mr. Korabi requested a due diligence, but it doesn't answer the question of whether due diligence was done or not.
Yes.
And Mr. Korabi, in protest, resigned from the board.
Yes, no, but that's a separate issue. All I was asking was whether this committee, faced with an allegation that the previous chairperson had contacted Korabi and required Korabi to approve the conditional appointment of SSI, whether in its response this committee responded to that.
No, I don't see.
Yes. Do you know of any reason why they would not have, in their investigation, contacted the previous chairperson and found out whether this allegation about him made by Korabi was correct?
Well, it seems to me, Chairperson, that there was no rigor at all
Yeah,
in doing this, investigating and doing this report.
yes. Okay. Ms. Bia, continue.
Thank you. On page 262, we see where it says para 7.
Yes?
The complaint is the PSJV subscribes to the Public Finance Management Act 1 of 1999, at least according to the CLO, Chief Legal Officer.
Correct.
And the response by the committee is the JV is not legally obliged to subscribe to the PFMA. However, it does subscribe and adhere to the PFMA through its association with a state-owned company.
Correct.
Yes. And then on the next point is, on the 11th of December 2015, the CLO and chairperson at the time took Korabi and Dr. Roger Paul, an Alexkor representative, into his office and discussed what he viewed as the new direction the PSJV must take in appointing the service provider. He mentioned that only one candidate will be interviewed, only one candidate that will be interviewed met the new direction he proposes. He then mentioned SSI. Do you see that complaint?
I do see that.
And what's the response by the committee?
The date 11 December 2015 cannot be correct as the tender was awarded on 27th of February 2015.
Now pause there. That's correct, hey? It should be 2014.
Correct.
Yes. And then what do they continue to say?
We have received the representation of Mr. Bacchus that he has no recollection of the meeting taking place.
Similarly to the question that was posed by the chair previously, does this deal with the substance of what was said to have been said at the meeting?
It sheds no light on the matter at all.
Yes.
What does CLO represent again?
Chief Legal Officer, that's Ms. Zarina Kellerman.
So therefore, the CLO and chairperson would be two different people.
Yes, Chair.
And in their response, they talk about what Mr. Burgess said, but they don't say anything about what the CLO said, isn't it?
Indeed.
The CLO would have been a different person. Is that right, Mr. Craythorne?
That's correct. Mr. Korabi is alleging that he was briefed by, amongst others, Mr. Bacchus, and Mr. Bacchus states that he has no recollection of a meeting with Mr. Korabi having taken place.
And also, from this, it looks like after they had talked to Mr. Bacchus, they didn't go back to Mr. Korabi and say, he says he can't recall. What can you say to jog his memory?
And the matter is left there.
It's just left there.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember, but here is somebody who does remember. But it's just left there. And then the CLO, they decide not to check with the CLO, particularly in circumstances where one of the parties says, I can't remember. That was all the more reason why they should talk to the CLO and say, do you remember?
Correct.
But they didn't bother to interview the CLO.
That is correct, Chair.
Or if they did interview him,
there's no record of it.
They chose not to record what he said. Okay, Ms. Bia.
Yes, thank you, Chair. If you go to the bottom on the same page where it says para 10,
I have it.
it says during March 2015, the appointment of SSI reaches a boiling point with the sole shareholder of the RMC challenging the regularity of the appointment. What is the response by the committee?
No response.
Now, is this an
Sorry, I missed that. Which one was that, Ms. Beer?
para 10, Chair?
Para 10.
Yes, and the response by the committee is no response.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So they chose not to investigate what this was about and whether this was factually true. Yeah, okay. I think we should take this to adjournment.
Thank you, Chair.
We'll resume at 11:30. We adjourn.
All rise.
The directors in SSI were registered with the company's office in Pretoria. So in other words, they were only registered 2 days before the tender closed. Do you see that?
I do.
So that's the complaint. Do you see the response on the next page, 264?
I do.
What is the response?
It's blank.
So no response to this allegation or to this complaint was given to the minister.
Correct.
And then the next issue is on, it says para 16, the very next block. You will note from the attached correspondence by Phillips that was chosen because they were or they had a good track record in the diamond industry, that they were the only entity willing to sign a beneficiation agreement. To the best of our knowledge, none of the contractors were offered this proposal by the tender committee. SSI has no track record in the diamond industry prior to its appointment. And since the appointment of SSI, no beneficiation for the community has taken place.
Correct.
What is the response by the committee?
During the adjudication of the 3 shortlisted companies, each tender committee member was afforded an opportunity to score on the beneficiation commitments. The outcome of the scores out of 10 for SSI was Dr. Paul, SSI, 5 out of 10. Mr. Karabi, SSI, 10 out of 10. Mr. Bacchus, SSI, 5 out of 10. That's the response.
Does the response deal with the issue raised in the problem statement?
Not at all.
Does it deal with the track record of SSI?
No.
And does it deal with the beneficiation, other than telling us that the parties were given an opportunity to score? Does it deal with the factual statement that since the appointment of SSI, no beneficiation for the community has taken place?
No, not at all.
Well, this Risk and Audit Committee seems to really not have been interested in properly investigating the allegations. Here is a very serious allegation made here that SSI had no track record in the diamond industry prior to its appointment. They are supposed to have investigated that. And in response to that complaint, they are supposed to say, we have investigated this, we have found it to be true, or we have found it not to be true. They say nothing about it.
They just
and
ignore it.
It's such a critical issue. And on beneficiation, the allegation is, since the appointment of SSI, no beneficiation for the community has taken place. Instead of dealing with that allegation, is that allegation true? They tell us what happened at the adjudication. I mean, that's so unsatisfactory. It's not the complaint. Yeah, okay, Ms. Bia.
Thank you. The next issue is in para 17, and this is the complaint. It is clear to us that SSI was created specifically for this tender. We do not know who the shareholders are of SSI and their relationship, if any, with any of the tender committee board members or the PSJV board members. We do not know if SSI complies with the PFMA. We do not know if SSI complies with the BBBEE legislation. We do not know if the other requirements that led to their conditional appointment have been met.
Correct.
And what is the response by the committee?
The appointment of SSI was done via round-robin resolution that was signed by all the board members. Mr. Korabi was not included as a signatory to the round robin resolution as he no longer was a member of the PSJV joint board. The PSJV board from 27 January 2015 to 15 July 2015 consisted of 5 directors. All the directors of the PSJV board signed the resolution.
Again, do they respond to the very first allegation that it's clear to us that SSI was created specifically for this tender?
No,
Do they deal with who the shareholders are or their relationships?
no,
Do they deal with the compliance by SSI?
no,
Do they deal with any of the other requirements that led to their conditional appointment having been met or not?
no.
So again, the response is just filling up the space because it does not deal at all with the issues that are raised in the problem.
That is correct.
Now, I'll take you to the last one on that page. It says para 19.
I have it.
At the board meeting approving the appointment of SSI, our representative Willem Fries was misled by the rest of the board members and the CLO that Korabi had already approved the appointment of SSI and that it was a mere formality. They did not disclose to him that Bristow was involved. The board at the time was irregularly constituted as it required 2 independent directors from the RMC and a community director to constitute a quorum for the meeting. This was the requirement set by Alexkor and RMC. What is the response?
We have received the affidavit from Mr. W. Fries, which we have enclosed for ease of reference under file reference 26, which indicates he was not misled to signing the resolution that approved the appointment of SSI.
Is there any indication that they referred that affidavit to Mr. Korabi to say, what do you say about Mr. Fries' affidavit that says he was not misled? Is there any indication that they did that on their report?
Not that I'm aware of.
So, on the face of their report, it looks like they got an affidavit from Mr. Fries saying, I was not misled, and that was enough for them.
Yeah,
And that's not investigating.
it seems to me that there was an original position which Mr. Fries had, which then changed and was confirmed by way of an affidavit.
Yes. Yes, Ms. Beer.
And the last point that I want to refer you to in relation to this report is where it says para 21. Can you see that on page 265?
I do.
And the issue that is raised is, it is still not clear what the outcome of the due diligence was.
Correct.
And the response by the committee?
The outcome of the due diligence was forwarded to the board on 29 January 2015. The RMC representatives were represented throughout the tender process and was well aware of the outcome of the due diligence.
Does this tell us what was the outcome of the due diligence?
No.
So all it says is you should know it. In effect, in a nutshell, it says the RMC representatives were represented throughout, and the outcome was forwarded to the board.
That is correct, and that's a false statement because we already know from the evidence of Craig Matthews or the correspondence of Craig Matthews in the Samela judgment that is a false statement.
And then we get to the conclusion. What is the conclusion that is drawn, that just that paragraph under the heading conclusion?
Based on the affidavit and collaborative evidence reviewed by the committee, we could not find any fundamental breach of procurement procedures adopted by PSJV other than, I think it's a typing error, it says manner of housekeeping that we have alerted the management of the PSJV to correct.
Yes. So they did not find any wrongdoing.
That is
Their
correct.
conclusion is everything was above board.
Correct.
Thank you. Now I take you to a new topic.
Well,
Yes.
that report, who is it signed by, Mr. Craythorne?
I do not have a signed version.
Not signed, but who is reflected as
It's
the
Miss-
author of the report?
Ms. M. Lehobai, Chairperson of the Audit and Risk Committee.
Yes. And according to what she has written there, she is a chartered accountant.
That is correct.
We need to have, if you do not already have, we need to have an affidavit from her explaining this report. And all attempts must be made for her to be called to give evidence and be questioned about this report.
Noted,
Okay.
Chair.
Let's continue.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Craythorne, I'm taking you to your affidavit on page 54. This is a new topic.
Page 54.
Yes.
Yep, I have it before me.
Okay, you see the heading there, almost at the bottom. The proposed diversification of Alexkor into the coal industry.
Correct, I have it before me.
Now, you say in your affidavit that with the appointment of Gigaba as Minister of Public Enterprises in late 2010, a process of twin state capture began, while at the same time expropriating Alexkor's diamond assets, initially through SSI and later through Transhex, a group with links to regiments set about capturing Alexkor itself in pursuit of coal supply contracts to be concluded by Gupta proxies at Eskom.
Correct.
Where did you get all of this? How did you reach this conclusion?
I reached this conclusion as a consequence of having consumed quite a fair amount of evidence over time. The apex document in regard to this would be what is referred to as the Quesco plan, which is a document that sets out a collaboration amongst a vast array of political and business elites in South Africa to use Alexkor's marine mining assets as the core component of a total monopolization of the entire West Coast diamond mining industry, extending even across the border into Namibia.
Mr. Craythorne, if I can refer you to bundle 4B. Page 1203. 1203. Is this the document you are referring to?
That is correct.
So the document that is titled Quesco, Corporate Advisory, West Coast Diamond Consolidation, that's the document.
That is correct.
Can you briefly tell us who are the parties to this document and what it tells us?
The parties to this document are Transhex, a corporate advisory by the name of Quesco, the De Beers, the Department of Public Enterprises, the Richtersveld Mining Company, and the PSJV.
And this appears on page 1207. Is that correct? And when I say is that correct, I mean, is it really correct? You can correct me if I'm not correct.
That is correct. This is a portion of the document focusing on the stakeholder needs analysis that was conducted by the participants in this project.
And how did you get hold of this document?
It was given to me by a hitchhiker.
Sorry?
It was given to me by a hitchhiker.
A hitchhiker, someone you gave a lift to, gave you this document.
That's correct.
What did he or she say you must do with the document?
Well, I was driving from Alexander Bay to Port Nolloth. I picked up a gentleman from the Richtersveld who was hitchhiking, and whom I happen to know, actually. And he asked me how I was looking forward to the new owners of Alexkor. And I said to him, well, what are you talking about? And he started telling me about a plan that would result in what we are looking at here in this document. I found it quite fantastical, and I took it with quite a pinch of salt, but he persisted, and when we got to Port Nolloth, he said to me, well, just park at this address, and I will go and fetch you a copy of the document. And that is how I came to have possession of this document. It was given to me by a gentleman who I had picked up hitchhiking. And this is a very important document in connecting the dots.
So what was the importance of this document to you?
The importance of this document to me is that, first of all, the stakeholder analysis excludes one of the most important stakeholder groups in the region and who depend upon Alexkor's success as an SOE, which is the group of people I represent as a member of the EAC, and that is the diamond diving community, because it is the diamond diving community that have contributed more to the operational profits of Alexkor and the PSJV than any other segment of the business. And included in the stakeholder analysis is a collection of elite government and business and community representatives that set out to capture Alexkor's marine mining assets.
In fact, you say in paragraph 241 of your affidavit in bundle 4A, on page 55.
241?
Page 55, paragraph 241.
Okay, could you repeat the paragraph number for me, please?
The page is 55.
Yes.
The paragraph is 241.
I have it before me.
Yes. You in fact say there that as it turns out, yes, continue.
As it turns out, while I was trying to persuade the Alexkor board to review the SSI contract and to report on the true value of Alexkor's marine diamond assets, unbeknown to me, TransX, Quesco, Corsa, and Carstens had devised a plan to persuade Alexkor to dispose of its diamond assets in the region and to diversify into coal.
And you say what this in fact envisaged was the creation of a platform in order to take management control of Alexkor's marine diamond operations, construct a false narrative about the future mining potential of the marine mining rights by telling all stakeholders that the diamonds will be mined out within 5 to 10 years, while simultaneously stripping the assets and running the town and mine infrastructure into the ground, and to purchase Alexkor's marine diamond operations when government has lost hope in any future success and take over the 51% stake in the PSJV.
That is correct.
Now, why do you say it would be a false narrative to indicate that the diamonds would be mined out within 5 to 10 years?
Well, while it is a well-known geological fact that Alexkor possesses the most stunning deposit of gem diamonds that have ever existed on the planet, it was the PSJV management team under the leadership of Mr. Carstens were telling the portfolio committees, both the NCOP and the portfolio committees, that Alexkor, if I can quote his exact words, in one particular sitting that I attended, he stated that in 5 to 10 years there will be no more mining, which is extremely misleading because the actual mining of the Orange River Delta's Diamond Plaza has only just begun. The last 100 years has only really mined probably less than 10% of the overall deposit. The balance of the deposit remains in the ocean, covered by sediment, which poses geotechnical challenges that have preserved it and which now is set to be mined due to the evolution of technological advances over the past 10 years. And confirmation of that is seen clearly in the great success that the Namibian government and De Beers are having on the northern, just on the northern side of the deposit, because the single maritime boundary between Namibia and South Africa passes right through the middle of this deposit. On the northern side of the border, you have an extremely successful marine diamond mining industry that is spending money hand over fist. The latest vessel is currently under construction. Investments in excess of a billion rand, to produce vessels, while they are producing 1,500 million carats a year and more. We are struggling to produce 55,000 carats a year on our side. So it's the same deposit, but with two very, very different, it's a tale of two cities or a tale of two deposits. Same deposit, two approaches.
And of course, the diamonds don't know where the boundary lines are.
That is correct, and I would argue that the South African side of the boundary is the most valuable because of the Paleo River system. And look, those are geological issues I won't go into now, but that is my personal view, is that the diamonds that are in Namibia have actually been sampled by the current that flows south-north from actually South African deposits. So the major eye of this whole deposit is lying in South African waters. And that's why there's a major boundary dispute going on at the moment between South Africa and Namibia.
And of course, if you look at the Quesco plan, and the persons mentioned there or the entities mentioned there, why would they be interested in buying Alexkor if there was nothing left to mine?
It's just incredibly arrogant or audacious, in my view, because it's just shockingly audacious, in my view, that people could think they can actually pull off something like this.
Now, you say that this plan was given traction as Gigaba had repurposed the Alexkor board in order to implement its emerging black coal miner exit strategy.
That's correct.
What is this strategy?
The strategy was to pivot Alexkor away from the mining of diamonds, which seemed to be very much a sunset industry. And the narrative that has been peddled to the government as the shareholder representative for the people of South Africa in regard to the diamond deposits in the sea have been downplayed very much. So the strategy that was embarked upon after 2010, when Minister Gigaba was appointed the Minister of Public Enterprises, has got a level of rationality to it, but it was done without having full cognizance of what Alexkor would lose as a result of such a disastrous strategy. Because in effect, what he would be doing, either knowingly or unknowingly, he would be pivoting a state-owned company away from the most important diamond rights in the world today towards a coal strategy in an era where we're moving from fossil fuels to renewables, and it just seemed like a tragic strategic blunder to me.
And if I can take you to page, to bundle 4B. And page...
Must I keep bundle 4B here for the rest of the hearing? Are you going to be referring to it further?
I will ask the chair to keep it, but the chair must please forgive me if I don't refer him to it after this.
So you are not sure?
Yes, Chair.
What page?
It's page 1106. And my apologies for the way the page is printed, Chair. It will be corrected.
Yes.
Thank you. Are you there, Mr. Craythorne?
Not quite. 107. I do have it before me.
What is that document that starts on that page?
It's a document from the PMG Parliamentary Monitoring Group's archives, and the heading is ESCOM Inquiry, Malusi Gigaba, Public Enterprises, 13 March 2018.
Yes. Now, if you turn the page to page 1107.
I have it.
Do you confirm that this is not the whole document, but just certain extracts from the document.
That's correct.
So this is page 3 of 32 is what is marked at the bottom on the right-hand side.
I see that? Yeah.
Okay. Now, can you read the highlighted part at the top of the document?
Minister Gigaba.
And that means he is the one that is speaking, am I correct?
Correct. Do I read the entire paragraph or just the highlighted
Yes,
section?
you can read the entire paragraph.
The discussions with regard to specific coal contracts of Eskom, I did not involve myself in those. I hold myself in a broader policy discussion with Eskom. This was predicated on what we were drafting as the emerging miner strategy, which we started engaging on around 2012 when we were saying by 2018 we would like the 50% plus one of Eskom's coal to be provided by black coal miners. I therefore had that discussion with Eskom, and we had several meetings with the board of Eskom. The strategy itself was being drafted by Eskom and spearheaded by the Eskom board, including the executive directors. We had 2 consultative sessions with emerging coal miners at which we had specific discussions around these issues.
Yes, and then you've got Advocate Vanara saying there appears to be an outcry even today from black emerging miners, and this was in March 2018, to access the business. What programs did you put in place at the time, or see to it that the board addresses the transformation issues? You can read the response up to the end of the highlighted section.
Minister Gigaba, the emerging miner strategy eventually was not implemented. I think one of the things we were trying to do at the time was that we implemented a business case where Alexkor would diversify from diamond mining solely to also become a coal mine and supplier to Eskom, with Alexkor as the basis to spearhead this emerging miner strategy and bring on board many other emerging miners. The emerging miner strategy was the biggest plan we were working on and would have resulted by now in billions of rands being managed by black coal miners.
Yes, and on the next page, 1108,
Yep.
read the highlighted portion, indicating who's saying it.
Mr. Gigaba speaking, I was spearheading the establishment of a policy intervention, the emerging miner strategy, which would have resulted in the ending of those evergreen contracts.
And then if you turn the page to 1109, Minister Gigaba again unpacks the details of the emerging miners strategy, and he says one of the objectives was that by 2018-2019, 50% plus one of coal supply contracts to Eskom must be provided by black emerging miners in South Africa. We agreed with them on the approach to take, and they were supportive of the policy proposal we were creating. That is when we began the discussions between Alexkor and Eskom to diversify Alexkor's asset base to involve not only diamond mining, but also coal mining, so that we use Alexkor to leverage the involvement of black miners in the coal supply program. Now, do you accept the statement?
It's not entirely true because it creates the perception that the intention was to leave Alexkor in diamonds and extend its focus into coal, whereas the briefings that Alexkor gave to the portfolio committees in Parliament made it very clear that Alexkor's strategy was to exit diamonds on the West Coast and pivot to coal.
Yes. Now, if I take you a few pages back in the same bundle to page 1101.
I have it for me.
What is this document that we are looking at?
It's a media address statement by Mr. Malusi Gigaba on the 7th of September 2012.
Yes. So this was at the AGM of Alexkor.
That's correct.
Yes. Now, if you read on page 1101, the highlighted portion, the last paragraph of the highlighted portion.
That's the very last paragraph.
Yes.
In this regard, I have appointed Mr. Rafiq Bachas as chairperson of the new board, who will be assisted by Ms. Gillian Nochlanda Jayeni, Dr. Yvonne Nono Maatsoa Matabani, Ms. Lukiswa Ntlangula, and Mr. Mohammed Baba. I have given the new board the responsibility to fill the vacancies of CEO and CFO forthwith by no later than 3 months.
Yes. And the paragraph before that?
I have assessed the needs of the company and the capacity of the board to be able to execute its fiduciary duties over the state-owned company. Our annual review of the board has necessitated that we rotate the board and include new skills sets and expertise to give impetus to the new strategic direction that the shareholder wants Alexkor to take.
Yes. If I can just stop and mention a side issue, I'm informed that I'm pronouncing the surname of Mr. Rafiq wrong, and it's not Bachas, and it's Begas.
I beg your pardon,
So-
that's my fault.
Yes, I know it's your fault, Mr. Craythorne, because I asked you how to pronounce it, but yes. So moving forward, I'll pronounce it as Begas.
I concede.
Yes. On the next page, 1102. We see the line that starts during the past financial year. Can you read that for me, Mr. Craythorne? It's the first line.
Of 1102.
Yes. The second
Okay,
sentence.
the shareholder has retained.
The second sentence of that line. During the past financial year.
Okay, I have it. During the past financial year, Alexkor has managed, to a large extent, to fulfill the developmental objectives of government by ploughing back to the community in which its operations are based. This is at the core of how the mining industry can contribute positively to the development agenda of the state, by ensuring that the benefits of the mining operations are accrued to the communities in which they operate. The Richtersveld PSJV can provide the country with a best practice on how the mining industry can become good corporate citizens by investing in human settlement for long-term economic and social stability.
Yes. So as at this date, the minister is talking about the developmental objectives of government. He's talking about ploughing back to the community in which the operations are based. Now, how do you contrast this with the new strategy that was then being talked about later?
Well, it was completely at odds because the diversion, because my understanding that although there would be a PSJV executive team and a joint board to oversee the activities of the PSJV executive team, Alexkor still had a very real responsibility to ensure and provide oversight to make sure that the deed of settlement and the unanimous resolution were successful projects. And by diverting attention to coal mining in Mpumalanga and in Gauteng, the board was completely redirected away from what was going on in Alexander Bay. And in addition to that, a large amount of funding that should have been utilized for rebuilding the mine and town infrastructure after the long internecine court battles to enable Alexkor to recover from the court battle and become a successful stated enterprise, because all of the elements were there. You had the human capital, you had the resources, you had every possible conceivable comparative advantage that you would want. And in spite of that, we ended up with the disaster that we have. And that is in large part to do with Alexkor being redirected away from the activities in Alexander Bay, and also the redirecting of crucial funding, which had been allocated to Alexander Bay by way of the medium-term budget, and other funding. A lot of the interest that accrued on those funds was all utilized for pursuing coal ambitions, which had nothing to do with us in Alexander Bay, and we were in effect funding those activities.
In fact, if I can take you back to bundle 4A that has your affidavit, if I can take you to page 62.
Ms. Bia,
Yes, Chair.
we have just reached 2 hours that I gave you. How are you doing?
Chair, we will be done before the lunch adjournment.
You are asking for more time.
Yes, Chair, I am asking for more time. I was careful not to promise that I would keep to it, but rather to indicate that I would try.
Well, you were not asked to promise. You were given a deadline.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, I'll let you continue until 1.
Thank you, Chair.
Let us see. Just try to focus on the important features of
Yes.
Mr. Craythorne's evidence.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay, all right, continue.
Thank you. Page 62 of bundle 4A.
I have it before me.
Yes. In paragraphs 280 to 282, you express this frustration of the money that was being spent in pursuit of the emerging black coal miner exit strategy, and that it was in fact being generated by the marine miners of Alexander Bay and should have been applied to its maintenance, but instead about 40 million rand per year since 2012 had been diverted to fund corporate headquarters in Joburg and to pay consultants working on this exit strategy.
That's correct.
Now you say that the concealment on page 63, that the concealment, paragraph 285, the concealment of the true value of the marine diamond assets Alexkor possesses and the misrepresentation of the
I'm
estimated
sorry, what
life.
page are you reading from now?
63, Chair, on paragraph 285.
Okay. Yes.
It says the concealment of the true value of the marine diamond assets Alexkor possesses and the misrepresentation of the estimated life of its diamond mining ventures in the region has provided the new board with a rationale for exiting its diamond mining business and diversifying into coal. However, should it sell off its marine mining business under the current manufactured climate, it would seriously under-recover for its business. It would also mean the individual miners would be forced to liquidate their mining operations at a substantial loss.
That's correct.
Yes. Now, you've indicated that there was instead a lot more coal that was yet to be mined. And you say that Mr. Carstens misled Parliament in page 62 of your statement.
That's correct.
And what did he say on the 22nd of November?
Which
On
paragraph?
paragraph 282 at the bottom.
282. Since 2012, approximately 40 million rand per year has been diverted to fund the corporate headquarters in Johannesburg and to pay consultants working on Alexkor's exit strategy. To justify this, Carstens has continued to undermine Alexander Bay's future diamond mining prospects. In Parliament on 22 November 2017, Carstens stated, "In 10 years' time or 5 years' time, there is not going to be a mine anymore."
And yet you say there'd been a lot of money that had been spent on this exit strategy. In paragraph 284, on page 63, you state the amount that had been spent by financial year 2016 as having exceeded 175 million rand.
Correct.
And this is money that you say could have comfortably recapitalized the entire Alexkor diamond fleet with new technology and semi-mechanized mining vessels capable of mining through sand overburden. Had this money been properly spent, this could have ensured that Alexander Bay could once again become a world-class diamond production center.
Correct.
Yes. So the money was available,
Indeed.
but there was a decision to not plow it where it's needed.
Correct.
Yes. And according to you, or your understanding, sorry, Chair, if you can just bear with me. Sorry, Chair, I've lost my train of thought, so I'll move away from that point. Now, what was your biggest problem with diversification?
The biggest problem was the fact that it would ultimately lead to Alexkor exiting its crown jewels.
And what would be the consequence of that?
Well, the consequences of that would be that you would have a total and absolute monopolization of the entire West Coast diamond mining industry, both on land, which is brownfields, and in the ocean, which is the next 100 years of global production will be coming out of the sea off the coast of Namaqualand.
Yes. Monopolization by whom, at whose expense?
The monopolization of the interests that are mapped out in the Quesco plan, and the losers would be the South African public, and most importantly, the people of Richtersveld and the Namaqualand, because there would be no participatory development. It would all just be the same old brute force. This is what we offer you, take it or leave it type of scenario. The money would be flown out and siphoned out of Namaqualand, as it has been done for the past 100 years. The only difference would be that the environmental damage that we sit with on land would now be ending up in the sea as well. And there are very serious signs of that already. Enormous amount of environmental destruction has already taken place.
How you put it in paragraph 286 is, please just read that paragraph.
The dynamics of a primary board and executive team that is conflicted by a Gupta-Gigaba coal agenda and a PSJV board and executive team that is conflicted by a Transhex Quesco diamond agenda has resulted in the decimation of the local economy, dilapidated critical infrastructure and a loss of social cohesion. It has also deprived Alexkor and the Richtersveld community of its share in what could and should be a lucrative diamond industry. This has served to dispossess the people of Namaqualand and South African taxpayers of a mineral asset of immense value and strategic importance.
Yes. Now tell us about the involvement of Begas, Kellerman, Carstens, and Koza in the Quesco plan. What role did they play, each of them?
One of the major problems with the Quesco document is that it makes provision for a shareholding, if I recall correct, of 9% to be ring-fenced for the PSJV management, which has hopelessly conflicted anybody that has at ever time been involved in the operational management of the PSJV's operations, having been promised a share of the final consolidated enterprise that was proposed in the Quesco document, places all of those individuals in a position of conflict. It's almost as if they had decided that the Quesco plan was a fait accompli. You can manage this enterprise into the ground. The more you manage it into the ground, in fact, the better, because it simply means that government will have greater levels of fatigue, and the pursuers of these assets will have to pay less.
Yes. And in addition to that, can you explain to us the role of each person in the decision-making process?
Well, while former Minister Gigaba claims in his testimony before Parliament in the Eskom inquiry that the idea was to keep Alexkor in diamonds and just redirect Alexkor into coal, the parliamentary briefings that were given by the Alexkor board under the chairmanship of Mr. Rafik Begas made it very clear that Alexkor was exiting diamonds, and that the best thing for the people of Namaqualand and Alexander Van Richtersveld would be for Transhex and De Beers to take over the operations. And that documentation I've provided in annexures.
And as we've already said, what would be the point of anyone buying Alexkor if there was nothing left to mine?
Correct.
Now, if I can, you say in your statement, in your affidavit, that you brought these concerns to Parliament.
I did.
Yes. And you refer to a date where you raised this issue as November 2016.
That is the first time at which I publicly raised concerns over state capture, although that was not, state capture hadn't at that point really become centered around the Guptas. but it had certainly been around for as long as South Africa's been on the map. So,
Well, 2016 is when Mr. Jonas went public about the meeting that he had had at the Gupta House, isn't it?
okay, and
I thought he went public in March 2016 about a meeting that had happened in October 2015. He went public in March 2016.
Thank you, Chair. Look, if I'd been a little bit better informed, I might have been more concerned about, at that stage, about I only became more aware of the Gupta links.
But of course, not only that, Mr. Jonas went public in March 2016 about allegations of an offer of the job of Minister of Finance and money that he said was offered to him. But 3 years earlier, in 2013, there had been the Gupta landing at Waterkloof, which had captured the attention of the whole country. So it can't be true that in 2016 the country hadn't heard about allegations of state capture by the Guptas.
Correct, Chairman. I will agree with that, but I don't think the country was taking it seriously enough.
Yes, Ms. Beer.
Thank you. In effect, what you are saying is you at that time were not concerned about the state capture by the Guptas.
Well, I was concerned, not in a sort of a general way, because I had witnessed what had transpired with the Imperial Crown Trading affair and the iron ore assets that they tried to capture. And what concerned us as the EAC is that at that particular time we were trying to reach out to the Department of Mineral Resources regarding issues of concentration in our industry and monopolization. And while we had immense difficulty in that, the Guptas had their situation fought all the way to the Constitutional Court. So you had the department ignoring our pleas for attention on our industry, while at the same time spending hundreds of millions of rands in taxpayers' money trying to defend the Gupta's hijacking of iron ore assets through Imperial Crown Trading. So that irked us as the EAC a fair amount.
And you referred us to the presentation and to the Portfolio Committee on Public Enterprises that appears in bundle 4B on page 1042. 1042, 1042.
I have it in front of me.
Yes. Now you say this is when you raise these matters. The
Correct.
matters of state capture. Now, what was the response by Alexkor?
Well, as I attended this portfolio committee briefing, I listened to the board confirming its continued insistence of pivoting away from diamonds towards coal, and even more investing funding in a diamond beneficiation project. And that just amplified my concerns. And subsequent to the portfolio briefing, I had a chat with Zukiso Ntlangula, and I said to her, look,
Who is Zukiso Ntlangula?
she stood in for the chair lady, Hansi Matseka, because she had a family emergency. So Zukiso Ntlangula, who was a board member, was the stand-in chairperson for the duration of the briefing to Parliament. So subsequent to that encounter with Ms. Ntlangula in Parliament, I approached her and I said to her, look, you really need to reconsider the strategic direction that you are embarking upon. And I said that I had written a extensive document outlining what the true potential was for Alexander Bay as a marine diamond mining center going forward, which she had not been given. I had given the report to Mr. Carstens earlier that year, I think in April, but he had not distributed it to the board of Alexkor because that would have not supported the Quesco plan at all, because it was very convenient for the Quesco team to have the Alexkor coal team stay focused on coal.
Now, as a result of your interaction with Zugiswa on that day, what else did you do?
I then undertook to provide her with further information by way of an email. I informed both Zukiswa Ntlangula and Honourable Zukiswa Ranto, who I addressed my correspondence to. And I included also Ms. Terry Stander from the DA as well, who was also present at that meeting that I attended. And I said, look, this is what I think is going on. You are dealing with a situation where there are strategic blunders currently unfolding, which you need to address. And I'm prepared to author a document, put a document together for you, but I will need some assistance, and they were very pleased to hear this. And a month later, I got called into a meeting by Mr. Mervyn Carstens and Ms. Reagan Phillips, who, this was just before the mine closed, the day before the mine closed in December 2016, and they were extremely irate. They confronted me with the fact that I had suggested to Parliament that Alexkor had been captured by Transex, and I said to Mervyn, well, I'm afraid, Mervyn, I feel you've betrayed us. And they felt it was outrageous that I was interfering in strategic matters, and I felt as a serious investor, my wife and I have invested everything into our business in Alexander Bay, and for us to have that investment be jeopardized by ill-informed and bad decisions, in my view, was unacceptable, and I was not prepared to keep quiet about it.
Now, you say that you, on the 30th of November, on page 52 of your affidavit, in bundle 4A.
Page 52.
Yes.
I have it for me.
Okay. In paragraph 230, you say that the Equitable Access Campaign traveled to Cape Town to hand over a warning about the serious governance problems and state capture at Alexkor to numerous portfolio committees.
That is correct.
Yes. What did you tell them?
Well, my fellow ESC colleague, Mr. George Nicolai, who's in the gallery today, took a document outlining the situation at Alexkor, as I saw it as someone who was very deep inside the affairs of both Alexkor and the PSJV. And he drove down to Cape Town. The idea was to print multiple copies, but it would have been too expensive for us. So Mr. Nicolai then made electronic copies on thumb drives and went door to door in Parliament to numerous portfolio committees and handed thumb drives of the document which I authored, setting out the state of capture in regard to Alexkor.
And was there a response?
There was a limited response, but nothing concrete emerged out of our interactions with Parliament.
Do you confirm that this was not the first time you reported to Parliament?
I confirm that.
And in fact, you had previously written to Minister Brown.
Correct.
And the result had been the report that we referred to earlier, where there was an investigation that came back with no real findings.
Actually, okay, if you're referring to the ARC report was a consequence of the complaint from Mr. Karabi. What flowed out of my complaint to Minister Brown was a letter of response thanking me. She then made contact with the board of Alexkor, and as a consequence of that, I was invited to attend a board meeting in Kimberley, and I then traveled down to Cape Town, flew up to Kimberley to attend that board meeting. And at that board meeting, I raised some of my concerns in relation to the poor diamond pricing, the strategic realignments that were unfolding, and the lack of transparency and public accountability.
Yes. Chair, if the chair can give me 1 minute, just to bear with me for 1 minute. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Chair. In fact, I'm not sure which bundle I last referred you to. So in bundle 4B,
Okay.
on page 1127.
Just repeat the page.
1127, 1127. This is a letter that you sent to Kim Davids. Tell us about that.
This is a letter that I addressed to Ms. Davis on the 9th of March 2017 after attending when the EAC as an organization concerned with the rights of the small-scale marine miners in Namaqualand, we became convinced, and there was overwhelming evidence to the effect that there was major corporate realignments that were taking place without us being consulted as a stakeholder. It's become clear that to us as an organization that the level of stakeholder materiality for the marine miners is zero. And we then tried to muster support from our members to confront what the revelations that were being made by accident by way of the Quesco document and formally in Parliament by way of the briefings to Parliament concerning the exit strategy and other very, very serious decisions in a hope to try and raise our level of stakeholder materiality. Immediately after that, we were sent quite a harsh letter from Ms. Matseka denying that there was any corporate plans to exit diamonds or anything of that nature. So when it seemed to me that it was pointless trying to raise the EAC's concerns with the Alexkor board in relation to these major realignments, that I'd have to reach out to the minister. And the purpose of contacting Ms. Davids was to reach out to the minister in this regard and try and get her intervention.
And in fact, she responded to your letter on the response appears on page 1145 of the same bundle.
I have it before me.
Yes, is that the response that you got from the minister?
That's correct.
And it, in effect, in paragraph, in the third paragraph, says the department will convey the report which you had prepared to the Department of Mineral Resources for review and consideration. And furthermore, the department notes the results of the survey undertaken to assess the level of satisfaction amongst the Alexkor pooling and sharing joint venture contractors. I recommend that you approach the board of Alexkor and Alexkor PSJV to address your concerns. Had you not already done this?
Pardon?
Had you not already done that?
Yes.
But
there were two letters written to Minister Brown, and I'm not sure of the sequencing. So I'm not sure if this was the second or first one. But I think this is what led to the visit to. I beg your pardon. This was the response I got from Minister Brown. The second time I think I reached out to her was when we were being sued by Weber Wenzel.
yes.
Or thereabouts, or when we were being threatened to say, look, we're no better off, after having gone and tried to meet the board and Beg your pardon. We are now, as an organisation and as a group of contractors, and as an important segment of the Alexkor operations, the situation is deteriorating. So the first attempt, reaching out to Minister Brown, was successful because it led to a meeting taking place, or a board meeting, and me being invited to attend the board meeting in Kimberley. When I tried to raise the issue around the Quesco document, Chairperson Hansi Matseka refused to discuss it and directed it to operations on the mine, and the lack of transparency in relation to the diamond prices and the deteriorating labour relations between the contractors and the PSJV management.
And the minutes of that meeting appear on page 1146 to 1148. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. If the chair can give me 1 second to check with my teammate. Thank you, Chair. Chair, from our side, that is the evidence that we would like to present in this forum. But I would like to invite Mr. Craythorne if there's anything that is burning him that he feels I may have left out.
Yes, is there something, Mr. Craythorne, that is contained in your affidavit or annexures that you think is very important, that you haven't been given a chance to cover in your oral evidence?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Through this whole period of rampant state capture, I've had many issues and things that have disturbed me, but of all of the phenomena that have disturbed me the most, the failure of Parliament to protect us is for me the most disturbing, because we approached Parliament over and over so many times, going back to 2010 even. And when I read in PMG summaries statements made in Parliament by, for instance, Honourable Cathy Lablack-Skagny from the NCOP, putting on record that the NCOP was told to stay away from Alexkor, I want to know who told Cathy Lablack-Skagny to stay away from Alexkor. Because that, I think, is just the tip of the iceberg. And I think if Parliament had done its job, I would not be sitting here and extending my time.
Well, that's something very important, Mr. Craythorne. I think we are going to adjourn for lunch, but I'm very interested in that aspect, as I have indicated before. I would like, if it's possible, when we come back at 2, I'm going to hear about ESCOM's witness for today. I'll hear from the evidence leader who was to lead that evidence and about the rest of the week. But when we come back, before I hear what they have to say, that is that work stream, I would like you to, Ms. Sibia,
Yes.
to lead him on those specific issue, on that specific issue.
Yes.
With special reference to the dates of his communication or their communication to Parliament, what it was about, when was it, was there a response? If there was, what was the response? Because it's quite important that the Commission establishes what Parliament was busy doing as some of these things were happening in state-owned entities, particularly when these matters were brought to their attention. Did they do their job? If they didn't do their job, why did they not do their job? What was going on? That is quite important. So we'll adjourn. But you confirm that that's the part that you wanted to bring to my attention?
Indeed.
Yes.
Chairperson.
Okay, all right. We will take the lunch adjournment. We come back at 2. Then Ms. Bia will deal with that. But obviously, because you know your documentation much better than us, you will also have a look and be able to say to her, here is the relevant correspondence. That's the date, that's the page, and this is what the response was, or there was no response. I want that I'm very interested in that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Bia, so we'll take the lunch adjournment. We'll take the lunch adjournment now and resume at 2. We adjourn.